Salutations, hello, greetings. Oh, I tell you, this Genesis is proving to be a struggle for me. I keep reading it worse and worse and worse. Named my channel aptly, because this is very badly read scripture. Jacob flees from Laban in Genesis 31. Here we have more testimony that these people are they're just not good people. So Jacob had taken everything his father owned, gained all the wealth that belonged to... Oh, he heard Laban's son saying that basically Laban's sons were jealous because, the stick thing at the well worked and his flocks were growing camels now. Camels from sheep? Who knew? So Jacob went to Rachel and Leah, or he had them come out to the fields and said, I see your father's attitude toward me is not what it was before, but the God of my father has been with me. I have a hard time reconciling some of these things that I see in this chapter and the words that they use. The God of my father, isn't it the same God as the gods here? I don't understand. But I'm just gonna skip over it for now. Your father has cheated me by changing my wages 10 times. We didn't really see evidence of him changing his wages. We saw evidence of Jacob manipulating his wages, but not Laban. In the last chapter, it was Jacob who was manipulating his wages by putting the sticks in front of the well when the sheep came to heat. Laban asked him, what do you want to take with you? And he said, nothing, let me keep working. Just give me the dark sheep, or the speckled sheep. And Laban was fine with it. Laban was like, yeah, cool. It's Jacob we see being manipulative. Jacob we see doing things that are wrong. And then he's saying that God was on his side, that he had these dreams, that however Laban said the goats would turn out, that is, the streaked ones will be your wages, then all the flocks bore streaked. He's saying that Laban had control over that when he was the one trying to manipulate the flocks, not Laban. And then he tells his wives in a really manipulative move, so God has taken away your father's livestock and given them to me. So it's manipulation and lies and gaslighting. And then the angel of God said to me in the dream, Jacob, here I am. Look up and see all the male goats mating in the flock. So he's furthering the lie. For I've seen all that Laban has been doing to you. Sure, Laban was not a great guy, but he welcomed him into his family like a son. Gave him 2 wives. He, made him basically a slave and manipulated and lied to him and cheated him and played these games with him and with his wives. But we don't see evidence of that further. Well, then Rachel and Leah get greedy. Do we still have any share in our inheritance in our father's estate? Does he not regard us as foreigners? No, he has sold us, and he has used up what was paid for us. So they're saying their father sold them to their husband, and that he used up what was paid to him for us. What did Jacob pay for them? Labor and years of his life. They were never gonna get, they were paid those years of his life as well. They were never gonna get anything beyond those years of his life and the labor that he gave to Laban. Surely all the wealth that God took away from our father belongs to us. What wealth did God take away from the father that Jacob did not take? Then Jacob put his children and his wives on his camels, and he drove all the livestock ahead of them, along with all the goods he had accumulated in Padan-aram, to go to his father Isaac in the land of Canaan. So he sneaks off in the night. He kidnaps his wives and his grandchildren, and he steals everything he had accumulated, and he just leaves. And then Laban comes after him It sounds heartbroken to me. He sounds like somebody who doesn't want his family to leave. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. And then taking his relatives with him, he pursued Jacob for 7 days and caught up with him in the hill country of Gilead. Then God came to Laban. Which God? God of Isaac, the God of Laban, the God, which God? God came to Laban, the Aramean, in a dream at night and said, "Be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad." And then Jacob pitches his tent, and then they meet up. And Laban's hurt. And hear the hurt. "What have you done to me? You've deceived me. You carried off my daughters like captives in war. Why'd you run off secretly and deceive me? Why didn't you tell me so I could send you away with joy and singing to the music of timbrels and harps?" We have no reason to believe up until this point that he wouldn't actually do this. When Jacob wanted to leave before, he said, "Well, what can I send with you?" And Jacob said, "Nothing. Just let me keep working for you for the speckled sheep." This is Jacob's doing. This isn't Laban's doing. "You didn't even let me kiss my grandchildren, my daughters, goodbye. You have done a foolish thing." Yeah, he hurt him deeply. "I have the power to harm you, but last night the God of your father said to me," so now we know it's the God of his father, "Be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad. Now you have gone off because you long to return to your father's household, but why did you steal my gods?" So we have this thing that Rachel did. Rachel stole her father's gods. We have an introduction of household gods, which I find very interesting because we have this thing of the God of the father of Jacob, right? Of Isaac and Jacob and Abraham, the God of Abraham. The God of Abraham visited Laban. But Laban didn't care about that God. He cared about his household gods. He did not convert to the mono God. Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen it. So Rachel keeps up this deceit. Like, what a horrible garbage person is she? She says, "I can't get up. I'm on my period." I didn't even know that appeared in the Bible. That's really interesting. And he's like, "Oh, okay then." And then, what is this? "Don't be angry, my lord. I cannot stand to be. I'm having my period." Jacob looked angry. So now Laban, poor guy, he's yelled at and berated again. And what was it? I thought it was interesting. It said, "The God of Bethel." Somewhere, I'm not finding it here, but just a point that came to my mind. The God of Bethel. Bethel, El means God, Beth means house. So the God of the house of God. That's pretty redundant, right? But these people did believe that this was an actual God who lived in a house, who had a house. He lived in the storms. He actually had to travel to Sodom to see what was going on there. He wasn't omniscient. He wasn't omnipotent. And he was 14 years, 2 daughters, 6 years for your flocks. And you changed my wages 10 times. So he puts this accusation straight to Laban. You changed my wages. But we don't see evidence of that leading up to this. It wasn't him changing his wages. Maybe I read it wrong. Maybe I am wrong. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham and the fear of Isaac had not been with me, you surely would have sent me away empty-handed. That is a false accusation as well. He didn't want to send him away empty-handed. That's just cruel. That's gaslighting Laban. And Laban answered Jacob, "The women are my daughters, the children are my children, and the flocks are my flocks. All you see is mine. Yet what can I do today about these daughters of mine, or about the children they have borne? Come now, let us make a covenant, and let it serve as witness between us." So Jacob took a stone and set it as a pillar. And he said to his relatives, "Gather some stones." So they took the stones and piled them in a heap, and they ate there by the heap. Laban called it Jegar Saharutha, Gautama, and Jacob called it Galeed. This heap is a witness. I like how this heap makes me think of Fraggle Rock for some reason. This heap is a witness between you and me today. That's why it's called Gilead. It's also called Mitzpah, because he said, "May the Lord keep watch between you and me. We are away from each other. If you mistreat my daughters, or if you take any wives besides my daughters, even though no one is with us, remember God is a witness between you and me." Which God? His household God that Rachel stole? The God of Abraham, who wanders around and is fickle? Why would you want him to bear witness? What's he going to do? And, I mean, the heap of stones is a better witness than their God. Here is this heap, and here is this pillar. So there's a heap and a pillar set up between us, and the heap is witness. And I will now go past this heap to your side. So the line in the sand, I draw this line. I dare you to cross it. May the God of Abraham and the God of Nahor and the God of their father judge between us. So Jacob took an oath in the name of the fear of his father Isaac. So this is new terminology again introduced. This speaks to me of possibly another writer. We're getting into the L's, because we have the introduction of Bethel. And then the fear of his father Isaac. He offered a sacrifice there in the hill country and invited his relatives to eat. And after they had eaten, they spent the night. Early in the next morning, Laban kissed his grandchildren and his daughters and blessed them, and he left and returned home. I have far more respect for Laban in any of this, even though I don't think he's a great character either. But I have more respect for his integrity than I do for Jacob, than I certainly did for Abraham. Abraham's garbage. Sarah's garbage. Rachel's garbage. Leah's garbage. Jacob's garbage. I don't know why anybody would idolize these people, or use them as a moral compass, or say that any of this is true.